Manchester United's pursuit of Rafael Varane could be coming to a premature end. The new agents of Rafael Varane have confirmed that there is interest in joining Manchester United, but any deal is way off and a long way off from being completed. Carlo Ancelotti and Real Madrid have grown ever more desperate to keep him at the Bernabeu next season, and the defender is awaiting a third and improved offer. We're all going to have to wait until the end of his holiday before an official decision is made. But the fact that he is holding out for this third decision, the agency have called when it comes to the links to Manchester United and are claiming things are way off. It doesn't feel good this morning from a Man United point of view, but I do want your views. I do want your opinions on this deal. We have a poll in the live comment section right now. Where is Rafael Varane going to be playing his football next season? Plus, we're going to delve into some talks and some links with Marcel Sabitzer being linked to Manchester United this summer. Pogba and Man United to sit down in the coming week to have contract negotiation talks. All that and more on the football terrace this morning. You get the chance to phone up and have your say. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. Here we go. Good morning and welcome back. What a weekend of sport. What a weekend of sport that the gods have given us. The gods have given us this weekend. You've got UFC, Conor McGregor versus Poirier McGregor as he won the last fight, which is going to be epic. I myself am slowly delving into the MMA world, and I haven't revealed this yet. It should be going ahead in case something goes wrong, but tomorrow around 7 p.m. I will be interviewing Leon Rocky Edwards from the UFC in build, talking about him, what he's up to, what's next for him in the UFC, but of course previewing this big matchup. There's the Wimbledon final, there's Copa America, and there's the Euros. Is it coming home or is it going Rome? It's the big question on everybody's lips. But we're here to talk transfers this morning, and from my point of view, there's so much circulating. There's so much news that's going on. We're going to delve into the bits of links this morning. Are they credible? Are they real? Could they happen? I want to, of course, look at the Paul Pogba situation. Yesterday, heading PSG. Today, there's going to be contract talks. And there was always going to be contract talks before any deal with PSG was finalized, because Man United have got to make up their minds as to whether or not they let him go for free. They try and get a fee for him. Maybe a compromise can be made with Pogba where they sign a new deal, and they're guaranteed a fee next year, but you of course put a lower amount for him to be sold next year, whatever it may be. So there's all sorts of scenarios that can still present themselves in relation to that, and we're going to delve into all of them. We're also going to share the link in just a few moments' time for you to call in and for you to have your say on the football terrace. I want to say good morning to a few of you. Dyke here says the notorious over Diamond. Do you know what's interesting? Like, I really like Poirier. I like him as a man. I like him as a fighter. A lot of people don't like Conor McGregor for his antics, but I think the UFC will be a duller, less exciting. It's always going to be exciting, but less exciting place without him. I'm kind of not ready for the McGregor train to be over yet. So I want him to win to keep it going, if that makes sense. It's purely for my entertainment as opposed to who I prefer or whatnot as a fighter. Morning to you. Dwayne here says patience is key through all the Varan saga. At least the club is keeping their options open, also on other targets. And that's what's really key when it comes to this Rafael Varane situation. We're going to play the clip yesterday that Peter O'Rourke gave us. And it was almost something that I missed during the stream, if I'm being honest, because I'm listening to him, I'm interacting with your comments, I'm taking notes, and it didn't resonate until I watched it back in the afternoon. I thought, the penny dropped with me. there's a lot of people claiming that Man United's confidence may have grown. And I think that confidence in Man United has grown because Rafael Varan, his agents, even yesterday to Peter O'Rourke, confirmed that they are interested in joining Man United. The interest is legitimate, but they are waiting on a third and final offer from Real Madrid. They've rejected two. There's all this talk that Carlo Ancelotti and Rafael Varane don't get on. And by the way, their offer may not be good enough. Ancelotti may not be able to convince him. But the fact they're waiting for it, they're waiting for that meeting, they're thinking of staying. The most positive element of this for Man United is that they're aware of this the whole time. Man United haven't just got back into Man United haven't just got into bed with Varane, put all their eggs in that basket, ended conversations with other potential players, and buried their head in the sand. So I think, look, from my point of view, it is not great news that he's waiting for this third and final offer. But at the end of the day, our approach to that, I think has been very, very good indeed. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. From a Man United perspective, that's true. Chris here says, Terry, I told you he's going nowhere. And you could be right. And you could be right. I think what's interesting is 3 or 4 days ago, we were doing stories based on a lot of the noise coming out of Spain and France that he was very close to joining Man United, very close to agreeing a deal with Man United. I don't necessarily think that information at the time, 2 or 3 days ago, is incorrect. I think since that point, Real Madrid have said, listen, enjoy your holiday. We're going to put a bigger and better and improved bid together. Ancelotti has probably reached out to him or to his agency and said, remember, it's a lot easier for Ancelotti because he can speak directly to the football player. He's allowed to because of where his current transfer card is. So they probably reached out and said, look, we know you're close to Man United, but we really want to keep you. And the world changes quickly in the transfer market. There is no doubt about it whatsoever. We're going to play the clip for you from Peter O'Rourke yesterday because I want you guys to hear what it is that he had to say. It's a couple of minutes long. Make sure you hit that like button, please. Just get this past 500 likes while we're live on the air. While this clip is playing, I'm also going to share the link in the comment section for you all to phone up, for you to have your say, for you to get involved and tell us what you think and feel. Rafael Varane to Man United. Could the pursuit be over very, very soon? Let's take a listen to what Pete had to say around the Rafael Varane transfer saga.
Yeah, this one's going to drag on, Terry. I think Varane's going away on holiday right now after France crashed out of the Euros a week or so ago. So don't think anything imminent in this deal right now. But yeah, we know Man United are seriously interested in him. It seems Varane is open to the possibility of moving to Old Trafford and the new challenge of playing in the Premier League as well. I've had a feeling from the start that this one could be used against Real Madrid to maybe get a better contract offer out of them, and that seems to be the way it's pointing to right now. Carlo Ancelotti is desperate to keep Rafael Varane. He's seen Sergio Ramos already depart the Bernabeu this summer. He really won't want to lose Rafael Varane either, because that's 2 massive holes you've got to fill in the defence right now, and 2 big inspirational leaders in the dressing room as well. And Ancelotti will be determined to keep hold of his best players this summer, because Real Madrid, it's a bit of a rebuilding job going on there right now. Ended up winning nothing last season, which doesn't happen at a club like Real Madrid too often as well. So Ancelotti's under pressure to deliver silverware, and his chances of silverware will only be improved by keeping somebody like Rafael Varane in the Spanish capital as well. I had a quick interaction with his representatives the other day, just asking about the Man United deal. They weren't giving too much away. Did say there's definite interest there, but they did say anything is a long way off. So read into that what you would like. But for a big deal, I guess, to happen involving such a big star as Rafael Varane, it's not going to get done overnight. There's so many things that need doing in this, with personal terms seemingly agreed, but then there's also image rights and everything else. And then you've got Real Madrid. He's still under contract. They're not just going to give him away. They will be looking at sizable fee if he is to leave the Bernabeu, because they'll be looking to use that money to reinvest into a new signing of their own. So I know Man United fans are getting very excited that potential of Varane coming to Old Trafford and playing alongside Harry Maguire in a really strong looking centre back pairing. But I don't know. I just think there could be a twist in this one, and I've got a feeling that he could end up staying at Real Madrid, especially if Ancelotti makes a real push and a plea for him to stay.
That there is what Pete had to say yesterday, and I think, listen, there's still chance in there for Man United. They know this. It's why they've pursued the deal. Is this third and final offer? Is this plea from Ancelotti? Is it enough? There's a lot of people claiming the one thing with Pete that I don't necessarily agree with is the using Man United for a better deal. I think there is genuine want or interest from Rafael Varan to join Manchester United. What I do believe is that his first choice would be to get the respect and pay that he requires at Real Madrid before looking to move on. Do I think he's motivated by a new challenge? Do I think he's motivated by going to play for a big Premier League team? Yeah, I think those things are true. But I think if the right money is offered to him at Real Madrid, I think if the right status is offered to him by Ancelotti, I know that everybody said they had problems in the past. If those things can all be resolved, then I think he may stay. This is why Man United have been very, very clever, though, in their pursuit of this player. They haven't got too far into bed with him. They have made an offer on a personal terms level, which makes personal terms agreed or a pre-agreement or not a problem, whatever kind of phrase that you care to use. But we now just have to wait and see what this third offer is from Real Madrid. If it doesn't even come close to Man United's, and if Rafael Varane feels disrespected, then there is still a chance that he can come in. So United fans need to remain relaxed about this situation. I wouldn't overtly any kind of reports in the next 2 or 3 days that say it's close to joining Manchester United. If a big journalist says it, we will report on it, but we'll talk about it. But my words, I'm pretty sure, will remain the same as they are now, that we just need to remain calm about this as a Man United fan base, because it's still away from being agreed. Until he sits down with Real Madrid and goes through this next offer, not much is going to change as far as I'm concerned in this deal now. And it's not great. Does it mean it's over for Man United? That's the question that we posed today in our title. No, not yet. But we're certainly, in my opinion, not the front runners. Is there more confidence at Man United now than there was 2 or 3 weeks ago they could get this deal done? Yes, that's because they believe there is genuine interest from Rafael Varane. Is he using Man United to get a better deal? Not in the way people would like to believe. It's certainly triggered Real Madrid into wanting to offer him a better deal because they don't want to lose him. And many believe this is because they thought they might keep hold of Ramos for another year or so. But it's going to be an interesting saga that plays out. It's going to be an interesting saga that continues to move on. The amount of money, what you'll probably see from some of the foreign press in the next day or so is stories echoing what's being said here. That's my prediction anyway, as opposed to, I don't know any of the foreign press. I'm just going by what we tend to see pattern-wise when it comes to these deals. Let's do some of your comments here. We're going to take some of your calls in a moment as well. Tammy is going to Arsenal. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Done deal. United apparently bottle the Varane deal. Here we go, is what Diogo Jota has got to say. Well, banter always comes when you don't sign a player. There's no doubt about it at all. Terry, United are still in a strong position. Real Madrid have to make a proposal to the player. All United have to do is make a better offer. The Glazers need to pull their fingers out already. I think Edward, Man United have made a very, very good offer to him. A very good offer. I think it's almost doubling. I read somewhere that he was only on about 80 or 90 grand a week at Real Madrid. Now, I don't know how true that is. It's not been verified by anybody. But Man United have offered him a big salary, £200,000 to £300,000 a week. It's there. Real Madrid do need to make him a big offer. They also need to make him feel wanted, and they need to make sure that if there are any problems between him and Carlo Ancelotti, that they're resolved. So United are still in a good position. They're in a good position. They're just not the front runners as far as I'm concerned. And you know they're not the front runners because if Varane had no desire to stay and he only wanted to join Manchester United, he wouldn't be waiting for a third and final offer. You just wouldn't do it, would you? Do you know what I mean? It's like I don't know. You're dating a young lady. She's like, look, can we be together properly? I 110% want to be with you, and I only want to be with you. You're all my heart desires. I'm absolutely in love with you. 110%, I want to be with you. But before I update my Facebook status, before we go official, I just need to wait and see what my ex-girlfriend wants to do with our relationship before I commit to you. That doesn't mean you want the person 100%. That doesn't mean you don't want to be. Do you get what I'm saying here? So I think for all the confidence that's being reported around Man United, I understand why there's confidence, but let's not get twisted. And there 110%, 110%. He wants to stay at Real Madrid to a degree. Otherwise, you wouldn't be waiting for this third offer. Like, I don't think that element can be denied by anybody at any point, in any way, any shape, or any form. We're going to go to some calls now. Before that, Zubair here, one of our members, says, I think he will sign for United. Maguire and Varane partnership next year will be scary. Vidic and Rio reincarnated. Listen, it'll be very, very good indeed. It'll be very, very good indeed. My guy, Terry, on hearing your voice, I feel you're disappointed. I'm not disappointed. I'm just realistic with these things. And as I say, I report on the news as it comes through. So if today a respected journalist to me says, listen, Real Madrid have made the offer and it looks like Varane's going to turn it down, then I become more excited. I also don't get hung up on the difference between me and I would say a lot of people when it comes to transfer news is, as much as I want Rafael Varane, I understand how the market works. I understand how business negotiations work. I understand how transactions of this size take forever. They can change with the blink of an eye. So I just don't get bogged down with them. I don't get frustrated with them like a lot of people seemingly do. Man United can go from being the front runners to being behind 3 clubs in the space of a day. You know, suddenly Rafael Varane might have a club that he desires more than United come in for him. So that knocks Man United back down the pecking order. It doesn't mean that the news that was printed 3 days prior was or is incorrect. It just changes. And I think when fans realize that it changes very, very quickly, they'll just be like more like me and enjoy the transfer window for what it is. It's a sales process. And I think as a salesman, that's why I like it so much. It's like, oh, we're in, we're out, it's working. I don't know if you guys ever like sold something to somebody, especially B2B sales, business to business, where there's multiple moving parts and the deal looks like it's going well, and then a problem arises. When I used to sell banking rails, very boring for anyone who ain't interested in banking rails, but you began through this deal, we were looking great, and then they would want a functionality that I knew our technology couldn't do. And it was like, oh, I'd sit there as a salesperson. Oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I spend days working with the tech team. Have we got a workaround? Could we do this in a different way? And it was like you tried to like finesse something or build it. Sometimes you actually could do it 100%. Other times it was a bit of string and sticky tape to put it together to have a workaround. And that was the fun part. That's what I loved about it, trying to close the deal. So that's why the transfer market is such an interesting thing for me. As a football fan, I almost completely disconnect it from the football element. It's almost a different industry to me because, well, it isn't sport, it's business, and I love it. Let's have a look at a few more comments. Then we're going to go to Matt. We've got Abdul waiting backstage. The link to call in is pinned to the live comment section if you want to phone into the terrace and have your say today. Let's take a look here at this poll. What's his poll saying here? I mean, the poll's very close. 46% think he's going to play at Real Madrid next year. 44% think he will be at Man United. Only 5% PSG and 5% another. That poll is very close indeed. Let's go to our first caller. We're going to go to Matt. I know Matt's a Man United fan because he has it in his title of his name. It always makes it easy when people do that. Morning and welcome back to the terrace. What do you make of this change and this twist and this turn in the Rafael Varane news?
I think United have been expecting this. I think, like you say, on average, it takes United. Well, but United takes 6 weeks on average to do any deal. You know, we look at Dan James took 6 weeks. Maguire took 6 weeks. You know, and I think the difference is United have been prepared for this. You know, they're not. We're not, putting all their eggs in one basket. They're making inroads into other transfers, perhaps, or making sure that they're not going full in on Varane, so that the minute he does pull out, or he turns around and says, "No, I don't want United now. I want Madrid," because it's been the fact that he's waiting for the offer. It definitely says that he's looking to stay at Madrid. But it also puts Madrid in a really awful situation if he does go, because they've then got to go and find, they were expecting either Varane or Ramos to stay. They've got to go find another centre back. And, although they'll get 50 million from United to pay for one, who in the world is the quality of Varane? You've got to find someone that is going to replace him, and that's not an easy thing to do. That's why we want him, because we need someone of his quality. And I think, for Madrid's sake, they need to keep him. And if it's true that he's only on a very small wage, when you look at the wages of Barcelona and Atletico Madrid have been throwing around at players in the Liga. I mean, I don't understand Real Madrid's wage structure. I've not looked at it, but you know, there is definitely money in the Liga, especially for those top three teams, and they can probably very easily put a ball, you know, a good contract offer out to him, especially when you look at, you know, the money that the rest of the league's on. But you know, United have got to be careful because, again, not to get themselves all into bed with Varane, because there is so much that needs to be done this transfer window. There's still outgoings to go, and there's not been any talk of any like outgoings like being happening yet. So yeah, United have got to be careful and spread their business out, you know, and just don't pin everything on Varane. Just have a look around, see what else is available to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a variety of things. I've seen 80,000. There's a website here called Salary Sport that actually says he's on 190 odd thousand a week, which would seem more likely at a club like Real Madrid. But when you then look up the list, Isco. So this shows you all the players that are currently on their books. Isco's on 225,000, Marcelo 266, Courtois 270, Modric 295. Benzema 295, Tony Kroos 330, Ramos was on 340 a week, and Eden Hazard's on over 400 grand a week. So you can kind of look at that and think to yourself, you know, then there's players like behind him that are only earning a little bit less, the likes of Rodrigo, Carvajal, Mendy. They're only like a few 10,000s lower than him. You can kind of look at Rafael Varane. He probably thinks, hang on, like there are players in this team that are on 100 grand a week more than me, and I've been as integral to the success in the last 5, 6, 7 years as them. But these new, this is the thing, the new contract offer was a pay cut. So I kind of just, I have this gut feeling now that if they offer him 230,000 pound a week, and they make him feel wanted, and Ancelotti basically gets down on his knees and begs him to stay, I just have a feeling there'll almost be this reaction of, I'm comfortable here. My life is here. I know what I'm doing here. We're one of the top two teams nearly every single season.
Do you think that contract offer was put in before they knew that Ramos was leaving? Because if they were saying, "Oh, you got to take a wage cut," then surely it would then fit in with the salary cap of the Liga. If now that he's gone, does that not allow 340 grand a week for him to potentially move up to?
It could do. It absolutely could do. And I think what was interesting when you listen to a lot of people talk at the beginning of the summer was there was no expectation of both to leave. And with Ramos saying, I'm not signing a new deal, I'm going to go, that certainly does change things. Equally, they are panicking a bit, Real Madrid. So again, there are some positives still for Man United. That they're like, no, we're not letting him go for 40 or 50 million pound. And Man United will just sit there and say, well, if he doesn't sign his new deal, you need to replace him. If you let him go for nothing, yes, we're still going to have to pay big signing on fees next summer, but you get nothing, and you don't have that much money at the moment. So I think Man United would be if he rejects this new deal, Man United are then completely in the driving seat, because if he rejects his third offer, then he has to leave. Man United are leading that race. They're not going to want to lose him for nothing. They're going to have to sell him, and I think United will pick him up for a 40 to 50 million pound fee. This talk of 80 odd million pounds with 1 year left on his contract, it's just not happening. Let me just finish, mate.
Sorry.
And that's right. Man United are not desperate. The reason United re-signed Eric Bailly so that they weren't forced into a position where they needed a new centre back. We all know we need a new centre back, but what I've liked about Man United's approach in the last 18 months is we sign our targets or we don't sign anybody in those positions. And I think if we know we can get Varane next summer for nothing, we will, or we'll look at options that are within the price range that we've set for this position. We won't just go, do you know what? They spend an extra 40 million pound on Rafael Varane, who's available for free next year. I just don't think the club's going to do that. Real Madrid are not going to want to risk that. So a compromise will be come to. Go on, mate.
And we're in the same situation with Pogba going to PSG. You know, we can get him off the books for money, or PSG can wait out another year until he goes on the free. But the problem for PSG again is that if they let him go out on the free, if they're waiting for him to go on the free, there's 3 other clubs that are definitely looking at him. You know, Juventus of the world, Real Madrid, Barcelona. They'll be looking at Pogba because he's a superstar. And Varane's in the same situation with us. If we pay them, you know, if United pay the money, then you know he's guaranteed, he's yours. But if you wait for him to go on a free, or he does sign a deal, you know, say he gets to the point where he's waiting to go on free, because then he has a choice of any club he wants to go to. You know, that's the thing that I think United fans are potentially forgetting. He could
Yeah,
just you stay for another year, be integral to the team, and then pick wherever he wants to go because everybody will be willing to pay for him.
yeah.
So
I think what's very interesting as well. Some news had just come out from Marca from Spain, where they have said if Varane decides to leave Real Madrid, their words are, which is now most likely option, Man United will be his main destination. I think that's all true, barring the most likely to happen. Real Madrid, who value him at 60 million euros, have given him the green light to negotiate his departure. Now that has gone on. See, this is the element that I think like Man United fans just need to tread carefully. All the news coming out is so positive for Man United. I just feel like, and it's the Spanish that are making it really positive, not the English, as in the press. And the kind of what's just stopping me from going all in on this transfer is if there's suddenly this U-turn, it becomes sensational. Real Madrid are back. We stopped at one of our best players leaving. Ancelotti did it, the pull, the power. It would be such great PR for them to re-sign him and to like sell it as he was so close to leaving and Ancelotti saved the day. I can't get that narrative out of my head because I know how the media likes to spin things. And maybe it's absolutely spot on. Maybe it's absolutely spot on from sports. It's actually not Marca printed it, but it's actually Sport Witness that have put it out. Maybe, just maybe, that's what's going to happen. But of course, Real Madrid are going to allow negotiations because they also need to offset their risk of losing him. So they can't just, like Man United. Man United are not just going after Varane and haven't dropped all their other targets and stopped working on other potential centre-backs because that would be stupid. Real Madrid can't just make this third offer without looking at new options and allowing him to talk to Manchester United, because if he rejects their deal, they need to move him on. So it's in that position there. All I would say, which seems to keep, maybe because if you're a Man United aggregator account, maybe it isn't good for your business to put negative Man United news out. You want it all to be positive because everyone shares positive news when it comes to transfers more than negative news. But the fact he's waiting for this third and final offer, in my opinion, still puts Real Madrid at the top of the tree. Because
absolutely, it shows that's his priority. He's waiting for them.
I'm telling my new girlfriend that I 100% want to be with her and nobody else, but I'm just waiting to see what my ex has got to say first. That means I want my ex more.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so that's just kind of how I feel about this right now. Matt, great call. Thank you for coming on and having your say. Top man. Thank you very much. Make sure you smash that like button this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Share this stream across your social media platforms as well. Annie here says we need players who can get into our first team immediately and are not bench warmers. We do not want to become Spurs or Arsenal. I kind of hear what you're saying there. Everyone that Man United are linked with, I would say, definitely not bench warmers. My new girlfriend, you know what I'm saying, but it's true. It's true for all of the conversation around Varan. We are not. After hearing everything for the last few weeks, my mind as it stands right now is we're not the front runners until he stops listening to Real Madrid. Then we lead the race. Until then, they hold the cards. They hold the cards. Next on the show, we're going to speak to Abdul. Abdul, welcome to the terrace. Who do you support?
I support Barcelona.
Lovely. You're a Barcelona fan. What's your take on the Rafael Varane situation?
You know, as a Barcelona fan, I keep an eye out for my rivals, Real Madrid. So I think I can bring some good insight in regards to the whole Varane thing. I think the one big positive for United fans, it's that Madrid are desperate for Mbappe, and they're desperate to raise funds for this guy. The president, everywhere he goes, he's getting stopped and being asked for the signing of Mbappe and whether or not it's going to happen. So I think the one big positive United fans can be positive about is that, like, they are dealing with a club that are desperate to raise funds because, like, they are obsessed with Mbappe. Like, it's an unhealthy obsession that they have with this player. Even, I don't know if you knew this, but when they were unveiling Eden Hazard, before he came out, all the fans were shouting, "Kylian Mbappe, we want him." Yeah,
I
that's
didn't know that. That's
yeah,
mad.
that's how desperate. So that's a big positive because they really want him. In regards to the Spanish sources, I would not take Spanish sources too seriously. They are starving for news nowadays, especially because Barcelona, they have a new president that doesn't leak news out to the media like the ex-president. So now, like, they're really starving for news, and especially sport. I mean, they are as reliable as the Sun. Sport, the Spanish outlet, as reliable as the Sun. So I would take everything they say with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean, the Master news this morning, it's sport. I think Master have printed it, but it was a Sports Witness story. So I don't know why they just didn't quote Sports Witness really. But Sports Witness are an interesting one. I find them pretty good in terms of I find them pretty good. I just sort of feel like, I don't know. You know, sometimes too good to be true springs to mind. There's too much positive news about like Real Madrid just letting him go. I do get the point you're making about the money side of things and maybe putting that aside for Mbappe and everything else. I do kind of get that, but I think at the same time, even though there's that desperation to sign Mbappe, to lose two of the best centre backs in the world in one summer, that you could sign Mbappe, but if you're weak at the back, you ain't winning anything major anyway.
I know this, but Terry, the thing is, they actually have really good backups. Nacho and Militao are amazing centre backs as well. But something I also wanted to touch on is that I think you need to keep in mind that Varane doesn't play for Dortmund or Rennes. So I know you're a United fan, but it's not an upgrade going to United. And some would even say, like, these are Champions League semi-finalists from last season. So some would even say it's a downgrade. And let's be completely honest. So the thing is, like, for me, it's clear that he's looking for a pay rise. For me, it's so clear that he's looking for a pay rise. This whole new challenge thing is just cover up for a pay rise. So therefore, whether or not he joins United is going to rely on what he's being offered by United and what he's being offered by Real Madrid. That's where this whole thing is going to be solved. If you guys offer him more, I think that's when you'll get him. But if they make a better offer or even match your offer, I think he'll stay. Because as you know, like in Spain, obviously there are some players that are more criticized than others. Like there are, like in England, of course. But Varan, he's very rarely criticized. He's very loved by the media here. So, I mean, I'm sure he doesn't mind staying in Madrid.
Listen, there's nothing that you've said that I think is a shock to me, and I don't overtly disagree with any of it. I think maybe 4 or 5 days ago, that he turned down these 2 Madrid offers, and United were the front runners. It's since the news has come out that a third offer is coming in, Ancelotti being desperate to keep him. I just feel right now my gut is just telling me it's Madrid all the way. And the only way now I think England get him, Man United get him, and he comes to England is if the contract offer is viewed as disrespectful and not enough. Then I think it could happen. Then I think it could go through. But listen, mate, I really appreciate the insight and that look from a La Liga perspective towards this. Really appreciate it, mate. And on it being a downgrade, it's a big risk him joining Man United as well, because
it is, because, you know, as a player, like, they don't see what United are doing week in, week out and see the improvement, like, in the league position. They just look at, did you win the Champions League? No, he saw you in the Europa League. There has been an improvement, but for him, he's looking at it like from an overview and seeing this is a team that hasn't won anything in many years. So it's a risk. Not saying, well, obviously there's been an improvement when you analyze it on the Ollie, but on the plain surface, you're not winning it. He's not joining a Champions League winners club. So obviously there's a risk, but if he says he's looking for a new challenge, then he's looking for a new challenge. And United are still one of the biggest clubs in the world. So, but we will see what happens. I hope you guys get him, because I saw the Europa League final, and I followed United closely. And I do think you need a new centre back, and I think Varane would be perfect.
I agree with that element massively, and I think if Maguire has been next to a better centre back during the Euros, and we've seen the improvement in him because he's got quality next to him, which I think it helps everybody. But whenever you're playing next, even if you're the best centre back in the world, when you're next to another very good centre back, you look better because you're not covering two positions, as it were. So it could be great, but this is a saga that's going to rumble on for a few more weeks, no doubt. Great call, Abdul. Thank you very much for coming on, having your say. Really appreciate that, buddy. Top man, great call. And listen, you may not agree with everything that Abdul said, but this is the Football Terrace. There are no echo chambers. You can phone in now and have your say. You can disagree with him. You can agree with him. You can disagree with me on my opinions. You can disagree and debunk the stories that we present to you, that the media are printing. That's the point of the Football Terrace. We very rarely do we do videos where we claim to be the source or we've spoken to people. We'll say this is where it's from. This is where the story's from. This is what's being claimed. What do you think? And unlike 95% of all YouTube-based or Twitch-based or whatever-based fan channels who give you the chance to speak and have your say as regularly as that, I do think a little respect towards just some of you in the comment section needs to reign true. If you want to ring up and say, I think journalist A is a liar, phone up and say it. We're happy for you to say that. That's up to you. That's why we talk about these deals, to give you a voice. It's almost weird. It's like you're having a go at the platform that is giving you a voice to express yourself about that story, as opposed to you. So you're like, screw you for talking about it. They're liars. We'll tell them they're liars. You've got a voice here. We can clip you up, put you in, use our reach to push back. It's kind of weird. I find it very weird. Do you know what I mean? I find it really weird. It's like shouting at a support group. It's like, why do you hate AA? Because there's alcoholics there. Yeah, they're helping them. But still, I find it so weird. I'm not comparing us to AA. I was just giving you an analogy. I love you guys though. Some of you guys do make me die. I feel sad for Terry today. He's looking depressed. Depressed? Do you think I look depressed? Listen, I go and pick up my son in a cup. I'm interviewing a top level female football player in about an hour's time. Becky Spencer, goalkeeper of Tottenham. We're chatting about her, chatting about the ladies' game, looking ahead to the final of the Euros. It's going to be fun. You'll see that later on today when it comes out. I'm then going to pick up my son, who I haven't seen for a long time because of lockdown. He lives in another country, absolutely buzzing and over the moon. I've got a Euros final, UFC, Copa America, and Wimbledon finals to look forward to. Surrounded by my loving family, a YouTube channel that I absolutely love. Healthy. Lost a lot of weight recently. My brother, thank you for pointing out that I may look down, but man is happy. Man is in a great space. But thank you for taking the time to comment. Thank you, my bro. I love some of the comments here. Varan is testing United's ambition, maybe. Let's look at some of these other deals this morning, and do me a favor before we go any further and smash that like button, please, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're smashing that right about now. Make sure you're smashing it. Make sure you're sharing it and getting it out there. Some of the other stories that I've seen circulate today is one that I was reading here that says it's about Marcel Sabitzer. He says that Manchester United boss Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a big fan of RB Leipzig star Sabitzer, because Sabitzer has been linked with a number of clubs this summer, including Arsenal, whilst United have also been tipped to make a move, particularly with rumours over Paul Pogba's exit. The midfielder is impressed for Leipzig, having been there since 2014, making as many as 175 Bundesliga appearances since arriving at the club. Blah, 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 blah. The source here says, goes according to former striker Jan Orge Fjortov, who shares transfer tips on social media. He cited and said, looks like RB Leipzig player will leave this summer. 1 year left on his contract, been linked with a couple of English clubs. I know Ole Gunnar Solskjaer rates him highly. So did Tottenham. but the Austrian could stay in Germany as Dortmund are showing interest. I think what's interesting here is it's the Sabitzer ones. I wouldn't say it's a strange deal. Saying it's a strange deal is probably a little bit disrespectful. I feel like there's so many midfield options available to clubs at the moment. It's almost like nobody quite knows where they want to lay their hat. Basuma's available. Neves is available. Sao Niguez is available. Pogba, to a degree, is available for some clubs. Sabitzer is available. And I think, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man United are all shopping for new central midfield players. But it's about nailing it down. He's currently valued at about £40 million. But because he's got 1 year left on his deal, a 15 to 20 million pound offer could go in. I do think if you're Manchester United and you don't capitalize this summer on a good number of midfield players who, by the way, are all better than Fred, are all better than McTominay, and they're all better than an aging and past his best Matic. Matic in his pomp was levels, but he's gone past that now. Sabitzer is beyond anything else we've got, barring Paul Pogba, in that midfield area. And because he's available for under £20 million, if Ollie's a fan, why are we not looking at that? That's within our price range. It makes so much sense. The Paul Pogba contract talks are going to start next week. I think he's back from holiday next week. Man United will sit down with him. They'll have a conversation. They're going to see where he's at. There's essentially three options that are coming out of that. Signs a new deal, or he rejects it and leaves, or signs a new deal with a pre-contract agreement that next summer, from next summer, will let him leave for almost a set price. So it'll be an unofficial buyout clause, essentially. Anything of, so right now this summer, we'd take 45, 50 million probably for him because there's 1 year left in his deal. We might maintain that going into next summer, but by giving him a new deal this year, that way we recoup some money. We get a fee in for him. He still gets to leave. He gets a little bit of additional compensation between now and then. We'll see what the club can kind of negotiate around that. But we know whatever happens, in my opinion, within 2 seasons, I don't think Paul Pogba is going to be a Manchester United player at all. I think he has ambitions to go elsewhere, and fair play to him. So Man United do need to look at these options. And I think if Neves is available for 40 million and Sabitzer is available for 20 million, buy them both. Buy them both. Move Matic on and move one of Fred or McTominay on. Buy them both. If you're keeping Paul Pogba, if Pogba's leaving, then you just move Matic on. Imagine Matic and Pogba leave, Neves and Sabitzer come in. Are we as strong? No, because Pogba's gone. But Pogba's irreplaceable. In terms of like-for-like ability, there isn't a player like him. So you can't do that. But adding the quality, is he 26, 27 years of age, a bit? So he's got that. The age and profile of both him and Neves is perfect for Man United right now. They're not kids. They're not in their developmental stage. They're older. I just think they've got to go and do it. Good morning, Starlord. Hope you're well. Terry, would you swap Pogba for Isco or Griezmann? No, not really. Neither of those two deals excite me. But that's just me as a fan. That's just me as a fan. God here says, I love the name. He says, I've been saying this for months that Varan isn't leaving Real Madrid. Use your brain. They already have tried to replace. They already have to try and replace Ramos. Why would they want to try and replace both their main defenders? I do hear you on that. White over Varan. There we go. Lyle says, what's this Sabitzer news, Terry? Yeah, we just went through it there. Essentially, it comes from Jan Fjortov around Ollie's respect for him. But there's a number of clubs that are looking at him, including Tottenham, Arsenal, Dortmund have shown an interest as well. I feel like if we don't sign Sabitzer, there has to be another plan. There has to be another player you're looking at. I can't imagine that Ollie and the club think that Fred and McTominay are at his level. He's just technically better than them both. And if we lose Pogba, that's important. But maybe it's not about that. Maybe it's more about Donny van de Beek. Maybe it's more about Donny van de Beek. And I think Donny's almost forgotten by Man United fans at the moment in terms of when we're talking about midfield. He doesn't get mentioned as much as he should. I think at the second year of Donny van de Beek, we're going to see, excludes the cliche, but I think we're going to see the real Donny van de Beek. I think we're going to see the real player. I think we're going to see the guy that we all believed he would be at the start of last season, more accustomed. I think he can socialize and go out and get to know his surroundings more. A year of being used to it, a full preseason. I'm not too sure what his injury is saying right now. I didn't read that it was a bad one in terms of 3-4 months. It was just he's going to miss the Euros. If he can get a full preseason, the fact he's had a rest this summer, full preseason, if we get 80-90% of the Donny that was at Ajax, I think, again, it could change people's minds about what we need in midfield. So I suppose that's the one element about signing Sayas a bit. So maybe the club looks at it and goes, do you know what? Donny's going to be our guy next year. Donny, this was always kind of the plan. And if by like Christmas, Donny's settled into the midfield and he's playing regularly and he's dominating midfields and he's dictating tempo and everything else, no one's going to care about not signing a midfielder. It's interesting, though, that I know people keep saying need a CDM. It depends on the system that we're going to play. You don't necessarily need an out-and-out defensive player in that regard. And do you know what? If Donny van de Beek was balling out in a double pivot with Fred next to him, Fred can do the breaking up of play and the shielding the back line pretty well. He does have mistakes in him, especially when he's facing his own goal and he's in possession. He's under pressure in the press. Like, we've seen the mistakes. In terms of, you actually look at it and you break it down. Let's go to cold hard facts here when it comes to Fred. Let's just take a look at it. By the way, make sure that like button's being smashed and you've shared this stream across your social media platforms. Let's get this past 500 likes, please, ladies and gentlemen. Get that done. Get that done. It's like just under 1,000 people watching. Let's get this to 1,000 likes. Why would you not all just hit that like button right now, my wonderful people? My wonderful people, get that done. Let's have a little look here at Fred. I've clicked on the wrong team here. I clicked on Newcastle instead of Man United. Sorry. So let's have a little look here at Fred. And we're going to look at his Premier League here. And Premier League and Champions League are going to focus on the two most important competitions for us as a club. Premier League, Champions League, right? Let's look at the defensive element of him here. He wins 54% of his defensive duels. He wins, 4.95 interceptions per game. Losses are a little bit of a concern. 9.5 losses, 42% in his own half. That's where he worries me a bit. But, 8 recoveries per game. And 46% of them are in his opponent's half. So it's good at the high press. But the reason I want to bring that up is that let's compare it. I want some names of players and just see how it compares. And and what you've got to imagine is what I'm talking about. With a baller next to him, being told your job, shield, protect, win the ball back. Almost Ander Herrera reincarnated. Who else are we going to look for? Who else are we going to look for here? Partey. Okay, cool. I can throw Partey into that mix. No, not Xhaka. Actually, Phillips is a great idea because a lot of people have said Phillips would improve Man United. And by the way, he's very, very good, Phillips. But let's take a look here at Phillips as well. Let me get him up, and then we'll break it down and we'll review it, and then everybody can have their say, give us their opinions, blah 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 blah. It takes a little bit of time to set up actually when it comes to the. It takes a little bit of time to set these up because they're not formatted like a. They're not formatted like a comparison website or anything like that. You have to manually go to all the sections. But I just want to see how it compares. Because from the defensive aspect, I don't think he's that far behind people. And that's just anecdotally. So let's first take a look at Declan Rice, a player that everybody's talking about and everybody wants. So let's look at this. So he wins 63% of his defensive duels. He does. But he's only attempting 6.8 per game, where Fred is attempting 9.7. So Fred's attempting more, winning 55% compared to less than 63%. Fairly similar as far as I'm concerned. Interceptions of Declan Rice, 4.97. So it's practically identical. Recoveries, 9.4, and losses are around 6. So he loses the ball 3 times less per game, recovers it once more. So some slight improvements there. But is that £100 million worth of improvements? From a defensive point of view, is that worth £80 million for 8% more defensive duels won and an extra 1 recovery? Maybe. Some people might say it's definitely worth that. I want your view and opinion. Let's look at Calvin Phillips here. Wins 58% of his defensive duels per game, 5.3 interceptions per game. Losses are at the same level at 9. Recovery is very, very good here at 10, but only 30% in the opponent's half. So we have no real evidence in the Prem of what he's like of winning that ball back in an opponent's half. But slight improvement there. We move on to Ndidi. Ndidi's is immense. So 10 defensive duels per game, wins 64%. Interceptions of 6.4 per game. Recoveries, 12 per game. Losses of the ball, though, more than Fred, 11 per game. So in terms of his ability not to lose the ball, you're kind of seeing that, and that's Fred's biggest weakness. So when I look at it from a defensive point of view only, like Ndidi is the only one where I see a marked improvement from what Fred offers us in those roles. Ndidi 70-80 million pounds and is completely and utterly unavailable. So maybe my point is maybe you wait. But you look at the Declan Rices, would I be happy if he joined? Yes. But am I seeing a player from a defensive point of view who for 60, 70, 80 million pound is improving us vastly? No. When I look at Ndidi, who is my number 1 choice, I see someone who's winning 10% more of his defensive duels, but challenging him more. Like, I think it's like, nearly 2 more interceptions per game. 4 more recoveries per game. These kind of things are important in matches. Those types of improvements, in my opinion, are what win you games. And let's take a look here at Kante. Kante would be again the acid test because he's been regarded as the best CDM or defensive-minded midfielder. I don't like saying CDM because some people get really, really triggered by that. They get so triggered. Let's take a look at this man and see what he's saying, right? With him, right, let's put in the Prem Champions League. Let's have a look here defensively, right? So let's take a little butchers. 65% defensive duels he wins. 5.6 interceptions, 9 recoveries, 40. So again, defensively, he wins about 10% more defensive duels than Fred. Everything else is pretty much on par. He wins an extra 0.6 interceptions per game. But he's consistent with it as an example. I think what's also important to look at is distribution as well. I think for me with Fred, what lets him down is when he's under pressure and he's facing his own goal. Outside of that, he's not too bad. Is he a great creator and great passer? No. But let's take a look at this. 87% pass completion, which is great. 77% pass completion when moving the ball forward. Okay. Declan Rice, 88% pass completion, so the same. 79% when it comes to forward passing. So his passing is not overtly better. We've seen that at the Euros. It isn't better. Okay. Kante's passing, 88% pass completion, 81% in terms of forward pass completion. One other stat is important. 7.3 passes into the final third per game with an 83% succession rate for Kante. 9 passes into the final third, but only 78% completion rate from Fred. When you look at Declan Rice, only 5 per game, but he's at West Ham and attack as much, 80% completion. We move on to looking at Ndidi here when it comes to passing. This is where it slightly goes down for Ndidi. So Ndidi's distribution is not as good as Fred's. Cast time facts, 85% pass completion. Passes into the final third at 70% completion. And he's all forward passing in his games is 70%. So with Ndidi, you get a hugely improved defensive output. Hugely improved defensive output. But when it comes to that distribution of the ball, you lose something from Fred. What you improve on is that he's more pressure resistant than Fred. He doesn't lose the ball when under pressure facing his own goal, which has been very detrimental to Man United on a number of occasions. It encourages people to press us higher up the field. If you have players that can circumvent the press easier, people press you less, because we all know what happens if you turn a press, or if you get past or work your way through a press, it exposes a team. But when you're susceptible to it, people do it more. A few people saying, can we check Jorginho? Yeah, we can check Jorginho. We can throw him into that mix as well and see how he comes out. But to my point that I was making, I actually think if Donny emerges next year, or you put a proper baller next to Fred, I don't think we need to drop huge money this year on a CDM. If we're going to play with a single DM with 2 8s either side, that's a different conversation altogether. I don't think Fred has the passing range or whatnot to be able to do that. Let's take a look here at Jorginho. Jorginho's ones are going to interest me massively here. By the way, that like button needs to be smashed, my people. Let's smash that like button right now. Jorginho, right. Let's put in Premier League and Champions League here. Right. So, defensively, see, this is what's interesting, right? So, interceptions, 5.5 per game. Recoveries, 9.5, which is very, very good. It's the defensive duels where he struggles because he isn't physical. He's only winning 55%, which is nearly 20% less than, say, an Ndidi, a more powerful midfielder. However, let's then take a look at the passing. 90% pass completion rate. Over 12 passes per game into the final third with an 80% pass completion. His forward passing accuracy is at 87%. So what you get with Jorginho, plus when you compare him to, say, Fred, he's completing nearly 20 more passes per game. Fred receives the ball in a match 43 times, where Jorginho is receiving it 56. Ndidi only receives the ball 30 times per game on average. Declan Rice only 25 games. So Jorginho is a very different type of midfield player. The play goes through him. He isn't a physical specimen. He isn't challenging and crunching in for balls. He is about reading of the game. He is the Italian Michael Carrick, and he's absolutely sensational. So, like I've always spoken about on the terrace, again, beyond key stage 1 football, like for like isn't always needed. There's this part of me that sometimes thinks, if Chelsea don't want Jorginho, I would, instead of buying a CDM that's a bone crusher, I'd sign a Jorginho. He's reading of the game, his ability to dictate, he is so press resistant. Of course, you can go and find me clips where he's been pressed and lost the ball. Everybody gets pressed and loses the ball at some point. Like, it's a nonsense to say it doesn't happen. But you can tell that he's press resistant on the whole by the volume of the times he receives the ball from his teammates and how the team work through him. You don't work the ball through a player who gets pressed and loses possession a lot. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. In terms of being dispossessed from the ball, all the other players we've looked at have ranged between 8 to 12 per game. Dispossessed, Jorginho, 2.5. Listen, like I said before, stats don't lie. If your eye test is accurate, the stats back it up. The stats back it up every single time. If you have a player making bad decisions in an attacking front, it would be absolutely impossible for him to be on par or supersede his contemporaries in terms of goals and assists and chances created, especially if the team you're in is only creating or having a similar amount of positional attacks each game compared to your peers. Because if say Man City, you've got a player that's a terrible decision making, and they on average have 35 positional attacks per game, but they've got a player that keeps making bad decisions, but every other team's having on average 35 positional attacks per game, and they're making better decisions. How can that guy that you say the bad decision maker have more created chances, more assists, and more goals than his contemporaries that play his position if his decision making is so bad? Factually, your opinion is wrong, because if he's making that there isn't. If the team was having 20 additional positional attacks per game, then it would make sense, but it doesn't. You know, oh, my guy loses the ball too much. Where? How? Show me. When? And how and where someone loses the ball. Are they losing the ball in front of their own box? Are they losing it with simplistic passes? Or are they losing it where the team's worked a really good move and have tried to thread the eye of the needle? But they've done that pass to thread the eye of the needle 5 times in a game. But the 4th attempt came off and it was a winning goal. But if you hadn't have tried them and kept it safe, maybe you don't get a winning goal. Like these are what need to always be considered in these situations. Monsieur here says, Terry, could playing in specific teams have an impact on their game? I.e. pressure playing at United is higher or more greater than at Leicester or Leeds? Of course it is. That's why we've seen players flop when they move clubs. Pressure, speed, style of play, coaching, cultural surroundings, all these elements. And cultural surroundings can be just moving from London to Manchester, being away from friends and family. These things all have an impact. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. They really, really do. Terry, do you think Jorginho will dominate the midfield on Sunday? He could. He very much could. It really depends on what England's approach is for this game. I think what's going to be interesting is Harry Kane dropping deep, or who we go for in that 10 role. So could be a bit of Mount versus Jorginho, you know. They're going to both know each other's games well. Of course, he could dominate the game on Sunday. He's a super, super, super talent. There is no doubt about that. He's a top guy, a top pro. And as, you know, a great chance of being the man of the match in that game. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. Absolutely none. Listen, everyone who's tuned in this morning, thank you very, very much indeed. We're back later today with more content for you, more transfer stories. And from tomorrow, we start to build up to that big final. That big final is on the way. Make sure that like button has been smashed. Until next time, take care. Goodbye.